Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Airspeed Reads Naruto video. This one is going to be my review for volume 18 of the manga, which means we'll be finishing up this 3-in-1 edition, the 6th 3-in-1 edition, with the final volume in it, 18. The volume is called Tsunade's Choice, and here is our 3-in-1 kind of cover page image, pretty nice image of Tsunade. And we cover another 9 chapters, as is usual. I think only 1 or 2 of the volumes up to now have had 10 in them. But we cover 154 to 162, Convergence, The Third State, The Offer, Tsunade's Answer, No Forgiveness, The Wager, The Necklace of Death, Tsunade's Choice, and A Vulnerable Heart. So yeah. This is a pretty good volume. I had some issues with the last volume because so much of it was focused on the early stages of the Rasengan training, and it didn't, visually it didn't come across as the most interesting because a lot of it was just kind of the motion of like a water balloon or a ball. The bits of the training that we get here are much more interesting because this is the actual kind of perfecting the technique stage of it. So we get I suppose what the true nature of the Rasengan is, in that it's like visible chakra swirling around. You compress it into this basically bomb of kind of energy that you can thrust into things, and just showing us like the power of this technique. And especially when we get revealed later on by Tsunade, who's the one to actually reveal that it's called the Rasengan, and how kind of exclusive this technique actually is, that only obviously the fourth Hokage was the one who invented it. He taught it to Jiraiya, and now Jiraiya is teaching it to Naruto. Very few people know that technique. It's so kind of complex and different than most other techniques. So it's a pretty big deal. The other focus of this volume is Tsunade herself. We got a basic introduction to her. You know, we got to see her a little bit, get this whole idea of her betting and her kind of bad luck, and how when her luck in the betting starts to go right, it's a hint to her that other stuff is going wrong. And we start to kind of see more of her actual personality come out here, in that I suppose the main thing here is that Orochimaru and Kabuto find her first, and she gets the offer from them about, you know, I want you to use your medical ninjutsu to fix my arms, and in return, I will resurrect the 2 people that you have lost in your life that you care about so much. Your little brother Naoki and your lover Dawn. And it's really interesting because initially when it happens, you get like a brief kind of image of just what the 2 of them look like, her remembering them. But later on, when we get what actually happened to them, it's a really tragic backstory for this character, because we also learn like her heritage, in that she is the daughter of the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju. So she is a Senju. So that's a big deal. Like part of the reason why she is such a like big candidate to be the next Hokage is because she is from that bloodline of the first Hokage. And I really like what they do with Tsunade in this volume, in that she basically goes from being a character we've just been introduced to, like she's established as being one of the 3 legendary Sannin, but we don't know a lot about her, to straight away having the key aspects of her backstory, what she has done in the past that makes her relatively famous within the village, and then presenting these kind of conflict of interest as to where she is at this point in time, and plus another various kind of personal issues, in that it's not just this kind of tragedy of the people she's lost, it's that the effect that has had on her is that she was right there when Dawn died, and it was such a kind of bloody incident that she now has a fear of blood, and she's a medical ninjutsu kind of practitioner. And so her initially saying to Orochimaru that she no longer does kind of medical ninjutsu is a pretty big thing. That like this is what she's so known for, as the one who basically made it a normal thing that most 4-person squads have a medical ninjutsu person on the team, and that increases the successes of these missions all the more. But it's Orochimaru who actually explains to us that the reason that she came up with this idea was because of her own tragic experiences during the war, most notably, with her brother kind of going into battle for the first time and straight away dying, and then Dawn doing the same. Both after, almost immediately after she has given her necklace to them, and the story of the necklace is actually quite good as well, because just this idea that it is a kind of artifact from the first Hokage, and she is giving this to her brother first, and then her boyfriend, as this kind of act of love, because she appreciates and can see their kind of passion for their goal to become Hokage, to protect the village, which is something she believes in. At first, but now she's older. She says she's basically just turned 50, and because of all this stuff, she's kind of changed completely on this whole situation. That what's the point in putting yourself on the line if you're just gonna die early? Like, that's the case with everyone, and she points it out, like, that I just learned that the third Hokage did this. It was the same with my brother. The same with Dawn. It was the same with the first and second Hokage, as well as the fourth. They all died before they should have, kind of putting themselves on the line for others. So kind of what's the point of that? This key thing in the Leaf Village, putting yourself on the line to protect others, is kind of something that over time she has forgotten, but you understand it, as opposed to Orochimaru, who you get the impression just never had that in the first place. He never had the will of fire, whereas Tsunade's kind of will of fire has kind of burned out because of these tragic experiences. So I just think it's a really good way to kind of just bring this character and add a lot of depth to her, in that they really cleverly use the fact that Orochimaru has the reanimation jutsu, and she knows that he was kind of researching this sort of stuff, so she knows he can do it. And then the extra layer to that, and that, like, we know that the reanimation jutsu requires 2 living sacrifices to perform. And who does she later encounter? Naruto and Jiraiya, and especially towards the end, where she drugs Jiraiya's drink to kind of put him out of action. Is she planning on using those 2 as the people to kind of use as the base to resurrect the people she cares about? It's a big thing, because you can't really blame her for being so hurt about what happened and wanting them back, but at the same time, that she's having doubts herself when she meets up with Jiraiya again and meets up with Naruto again, and you have really good scenes, like, I suppose, Naruto really freaking out when Jiraiya mentions that we're here to make her the 5th Hokage, bring her back to the village, and he sees her reaction to it, and that this is a thing that Naruto has devoted his life to doing. He wants to become the next Hokage. It's the best thing ever. And so he sees this idea of just someone completely dismissing it, saying, look, no, don't want to do that, and then insulting other Hokages who have put themselves on the line. It's just the biggest insult in the world to Naruto. And so the fight that takes place between them, just her being very kind of, I suppose, arrogant in this scene, just thinking nothing of Naruto. Though she does note when she gets his name that he is the one with the 9 tails, so she's aware of the fact that he was the kid who had the 9 tails put in him. So I did like that, but the fight's interesting in that, like, her powers, Tsunade's powers, are established to be medical ninjutsu, but then also she has super strength, as shown by her ability to flick Naruto in the forehead and send him flying back, and Jiraiya mentioning that she once punched him and sent him back like 100 meters, and then when Naruto is about to use a rough version of the Rasengan on her, she smashes the ground to kind of trip him up and smash into the ground. And I like the plot towards the end of this, of the bet, that when he says, to be Hokage is my dream, and she remembers that that's the exact thing that Nawaki said, and they're basically the same age. It's something similar to what Don said, and she's realizing that this is the type of person that I usually bet on, that I usually put the necklace on the line for, in terms of, like, people who inspire me. And you see the doubts that she's having, and that she can't help but kind of be interested in people like Naruto and her brother and Don. But she is still in this position where she doesn't want to do that. So she does this more arrogant thing where instead of giving it to Naruto, she puts this bet on the line. Where like, okay, 3 days to master this technique. I'll give you the necklace if you do it. You have to give me all your money if it doesn't work out. And you can just see that everyone's shocked by this. Even Jiraiya is like, really, that's a bit low of you, kind of putting this bet on the line and challenging a kid to such a kind of bet that he probably won't be able to do. And just like Tsunade's harsh words being what kind of spurs Naruto on in the kind of later sections of this to keep his training going. And especially when you have those kind of scenes with Shizune and Naruto, when she explains it to him and he's just like, okay, like he accepts that it's a very sad story for Tsunade and kind of understands it a bit better, but I suppose we don't get his full take on how he sees like Tsunade's flashback, but he doesn't place so much emphasis on it that like, oh, okay, I won't even bother to fight for it anymore. Her story actually spurs him on to fight even harder, to train, to convince her that, I suppose in his mind, she potentially thinks that he is the type of character to go out and die like everyone else did in her life. But he's going to convince her that, no, look, I can do this technique, I can train it, but I won't die. I'm not going to be the one who dies. And it obviously leads to a big coming up where he says something along those lines. But I just think it's a really, really well written arc so far, in that Tsunade's connection with Naruto is actually a really good relationship within the show, as his kind of, I suppose, grandma type character, where I suppose Jiraiya is technically his kind of father figure, but kind of, I suppose, in the end, more of a grandfather type figure to Naruto. And so, on the other hand, you have his kind of grandmother type character here in Tsunade. So it ends up working out quite well how it goes, and you see the start of it here in that she sees the same thing she saw in her brother and Dawn as in Naruto, and it's just this big conflict between, her close friend and Jiraiya, one of the people she grew up with, versus the person who she also knows a lot about, Orochimaru, but who has the skills to potentially bring back the person she wants. And I will make a specific kind of thing to point out. Tsunade's one-on-one conversation with Jiraiya, where they talk about this, and he's shocked to see kind of how much she's changed and her perspective on things has changed. The way she talks about the third Hokage being a fool for putting his life on the line and so on. And then the threat that he gives her, it's a big moment for Jiraiya, because he's very rarely been serious in his interactions up to now. Like, we know he is super powerful, but his attitude is very like, okay, I'm so confident, I don't even need to be serious. But when he basically says, like, if you do turn against us and side with Orochimaru, and he gives that face, that look, I'll be the one to personally hunt you down and kill you. It's a really big moment that this is how serious he takes this. And like, at this point in time, we don't have the full story about him and Orochimaru, their connection, and I suppose how passionately he believes in, I suppose, not wanting to let someone fall to the darkness, I suppose, that comes up later on. So it definitely speaks to the fact that Kishimoto has like more planned for Jiraiya in terms of the connection between all the legendary Sannin at this point. But yeah, the other connection we get there is Shizune is Don's niece. So I suppose the relationship that Shizune and Tsunade have is more or less that she still treats Tsunade like an aunt, effectively. Even if, I suppose, their relationship was never like marriage or anything like that, there is still a connection there between them. That's why she is Tsunade's apprentice. Ultimately, we never got too much depth into that. I would have actually really liked to get a flashback of like Dawn and Tsunade interacting a lot more, and how she first came to meet Shizune. Like, when she was still going out with Dawn, did she meet Shizune then when Shizune was young? Or was it more of a thing where like Dawn and Dawn died fairly early in their relationship, and as Shizune was then born, and Tsunade kind of took her on as an apprentice after that to kind of show some level of kind of respect to what happened to Dawn or something like that. Maybe it's addressed elsewhere, the exact details of Shizune's connection to Tsunade, but off the top of my head, I don't think it's really addressed in the show, but it's one I'd really like to get more on. Maybe there's a filler episode somewhere where they touch on it in the anime, but off the top of my head, I can't remember. Maybe someone in the comments can fill me in on some more of the details there. But yeah, beyond that, we just end with the kind of cliffhanger kind of setup that Tsunade has poisoned Jiraiya's drink. We don't know the full scope of it just yet, just that he's weakened, but he's still active and stuff like that. Naruto has recovered from all his harsh training and is close, but he's missing a certain factor with the Rasengan, so he's not quite there. And then Shizune is very worried about Tsunade and was on the verge of stopping Tsunade from going off on her own. And it was only Tsunade like basically knocking Shizune out that kind of got her free. And so it's this interesting moment where we now have three characters kind of in search of Tsunade, as Orochimaru reveals that, look, if she even attempts to like betray me, I will force her in some way to heal me, even if she doesn't agree to do it off the top of her head. But she says that she will fix his arms in return for him staying away from the Leaf Village. So it's an interesting decision that she makes here, in that she doesn't really ask for her brother and Dawn back, but it's more like, okay, I'll protect the village by doing this bad thing. So she's made somewhat of a okay decision, but it's not the full, Hokage hero decision, sacrificing herself for the village, putting herself on the line, really. It's just, okay, I will help the village by, making this deal with Orochimaru, but she has to some extent know that you can't just trust him to do that. Like, you are healing him, you are giving him the potential to have all of his power back, and just hoping he stays away from the village. And so that's kind of a problem there. But really interesting way to end that is just, she is just very upset about what's happening, and she's kind of being forced to heal him, and just all this stuff set up and play. How will the bet play out between Tsunade and Naruto? How's Jiraiya going to react to when he comes into contact with the three legendary Sannin come together? Because obviously fight going to happen. How are all three of the legendary Sannins kind of pupils going to interact? So you have obviously Naruto for Jiraiya, you have Kabuto for Orochimaru, and Shizune for Tsunade. So you have two groups of three in play here, in that Naruto hasn't really interacted with Kabuto in a while. So does he actually know that Kabuto is working for Orochimaru? No, I think the last time the two of them met in the story was Kabuto leaving the Chunin exams and just apologizing to Naruto. So he's gonna quickly he's gonna find Kabuto and be shocked at that interaction, and then they've already set up in this the battle of the kind of prodigal medical students of Shizune and Kabuto, that they're going to have a pretty good fight as well. So Naruto is kind of like the dark horse. What factor will he bring to the fight? Because we know the Sannin are going to just do some crazy stuff when they come in to start the fight. So really good setup stuff, just a lot of character stuff, focused on Naruto's training, and then Tsunade just developing her character. So I was really impressed with this volume. Tsunade, absolutely, I'd give the character award to. I don't think there's any real amazing one-liner here. I'll probably give it to the Jiraiya serious moment of him saying, I'll hunt you down myself and kill you if I have to. And probably the art as well to that panel. But next Naruto volume review will probably be sometime later this week. Don't have a lot of other videos planned this week, so I'll probably get 2, potentially 3 of these out. I want to kind of speed up going through the manga again, because I'm really just excited to get to the part 2 stuff, and of course the end of part 1. But yeah, other than that, that has been the review. In the comments, let me know your thoughts were on this volume and also the review. But other than that, thanks for watching, and bye.